the annals of ancient history, few places have captured the human imagination quite like a mysterious land, whose very name has become synonymous with untold wealth and divine favor. A realm so rich in gold that a single expedition could transform the treasury of the world's most powerful kingdom, yet so elusive that scholars have spent millennia debating whether it ever truly existed at all. The story of Ophir begins in the most sacred texts of human civilization, woven into the biblical narrative of King Solomon's reign during the 10th century BCE. In the first book of Kings, we encounter the first tantalizing reference. And they came to Ophir, and fetched from thence gold, 420 talents, and brought it to King Solomon. This wasn't merely a footnote in ancient commerce. It represented wealth beyond modern comprehension, equivalent to roughly 16 tons of pure gold from a single voyage. But Ophir's significance extended far beyond its golden treasures. The biblical accounts describe a land that supplied Solomon's kingdom with an exotic array of precious materials that reads like an inventory of ancient luxury: gold and silver, precious stones and pearls, almug wood and ivory, peacocks and apes. This wasn't simply a mining operation. It was a comprehensive trade relationship with a civilization sophisticated enough to gather and export the finest materials from across the known world. The logistics of these expeditions, as described in biblical texts, reveal the extraordinary nature of the Ophir trade. King Solomon, in partnership with Hiram, king of Tyre, constructed a merchant fleet specifically for these voyages. The ships departed from Esion-Geber, a port city on the Red Sea, and returned every 3 years laden with treasures. The duration of these journeys, 3 years for a round trip, suggests a destination of considerable distance, far beyond the immediate vicinity of the ancient Near East. The second book of Chronicles provides additional details that deepen the mystery. And the servants also of Hiram, and the servants of Solomon, which brought gold from Ophir, brought algum trees and precious stones. The mention of algum trees, likely referring to red sandalwood, points to a tropical or subtropical location, as these aromatic woods were native to specific regions of Asia and were highly prized in the ancient world for their beauty and fragrance. The wealth that flowed from Ophir fundamentally transformed Solomon's kingdom. The biblical account states that gold became so abundant during Solomon's reign that silver was considered of little value in Jerusalem. The famous golden shields in Solomon's palace, the elaborate decorations of the temple, and the legendary opulence of his court were all made possible by the treasure ships returning from this mysterious land. Archaeological evidence from the ancient Near East supports the historical reality of extensive long-distance trade networks during Solomon's era. Excavations at sites throughout the Levant have revealed imported goods from Africa, India, and Southeast Asia, confirming that ancient kingdoms possess both the maritime technology and commercial sophistication necessary to maintain trade relationships across vast distances. The search for Ophir's location has taken explorers and scholars to every corner of the ancient world. Each proposed location brings compelling evidence and equally compelling challenges to its identification. The most enduring theory places Ophir somewhere along the eastern coast of Africa, possibly in the region of modern-day Somalia, Ethiopia, or even Zimbabwe. The ancient Egyptians had established trade relationships with the land of Punt, which shared many characteristics with the biblical descriptions of Ophir, including the production of gold, ivory, and exotic animals. The great Zimbabwe ruins in southern Africa have long fascinated those seeking Ophir. These massive stone structures, built between the 11th and 15th centuries CE, demonstrate that sophisticated civilizations capable of large-scale gold mining and trade existed in the region. The site has yielded extensive evidence of gold-working, international trade, and urban planning on a scale that could have supported the kind of wealth described in biblical accounts. However, the timeline presents challenges. Great Zimbabwe's peak prosperity occurred centuries after Solomon's reign. though it's possible that earlier civilizations in the same region could have been the source of Ophir's legendary wealth. Recent archaeological discoveries in southern Africa continue to push back the dates of sophisticated gold-working civilizations, suggesting that the technological and organizational capabilities necessary for large-scale gold export existed earlier than previously thought. The Arabian Peninsula presents another compelling candidate for Ophir's location. The region's long history of gold mining, frankincense production, and maritime trade makes it a natural fit for the biblical descriptions. Ancient Arabic texts refer to regions rich in gold and precious stones, and archaeological evidence confirms that sophisticated trading civilizations existed throughout the peninsula during Solomon's era. Some scholars have proposed that Ophir was located in India or Southeast Asia, pointing to these regions' historical production of many materials mentioned in biblical accounts: gold, precious stones, sandalwood, peacocks, and apes. The ancient world's extensive maritime trade networks, revealed through archaeological discoveries of Roman-era ports and shipwrecks, demonstrate that regular commercial contact between the Near East and the Indian Ocean was not only possible, but actively maintained. The linguistic evidence adds another layer to the mystery. The name Ophir itself has been analyzed by biblical scholars and linguists who have attempted to trace its etymology and connect it to known ancient place names. Some suggest connections to Sanskrit words meaning dusty or reddish, which could refer to gold-bearing regions. Others point to similarities with ancient Egyptian or Hebrew terms for distant lands or trading destinations. Modern technology has revolutionized the search for historical Ophir. Satellite imagery has revealed previously unknown ancient mining sites throughout Africa, Arabia, and Asia. Ground-penetrating radar and aerial surveys have identified the remains of extensive ancient settlements in regions that match biblical descriptions of Ophir's wealth and trading capabilities. Particularly intriguing discoveries have emerged from underwater archaeology. Ancient shipwrecks in the Red Sea and Indian Ocean have yielded cargoes that closely match the materials associated with the Ophir trade: gold, ivory, precious stones, and exotic woods. These discoveries confirm that the maritime technology and navigational skills necessary for long-distance trade expeditions existed during the biblical period. Genetic studies of ancient populations have also contributed to the Ophir mystery. DNA analysis of skeletal remains from potential Ophir locations has revealed evidence of extensive population movement and cultural contact during the first millennium BCE, supporting the idea that major trade centers existed in regions capable of supplying the materials described in biblical accounts. The geopolitical context of Solomon's era provides additional clues about Ophir's likely location. The 10th century BCE was a period of relative stability in the ancient Near East, allowing for the development of extensive trade networks. The Phoenicians, renowned for their maritime skills, were active partners in Solomon's commercial ventures, and their knowledge of distant lands and sea routes would have been essential for establishing trade relationships with places like Ophir. Climate research has revealed that many regions of Africa and Arabia experienced more favorable environmental conditions during Solomon's time than they do today. Areas that are now desert or semi-arid may have supported larger populations and more extensive mining operations 3 millennia ago. This climatic data expands the range of possible locations for Ophir and suggests that some evidence of its existence may now lie beneath regions that appear too barren to have supported major civilizations. The economic scale of the Ophir trade, as described in biblical accounts, would have required not just rich natural resources, but also sophisticated organizational systems for mining, processing, and transporting materials across vast distances. Recent archaeological discoveries throughout Africa and Asia have revealed that such organizational capabilities existed earlier and were more widespread than previously understood. Perhaps most significantly, the search for Ophir has revealed the remarkable extent of ancient global connectivity. What emerges from decades of archaeological research is a picture of the ancient world far more interconnected than traditional historical narratives suggested. Trade networks linked civilizations across continents, and the movement of goods, people, and ideas occurred on a scale that made ventures like the Ophir expeditions not only possible, but economically essential. The mystery of Ophir's location may ultimately be less important than what its story reveals about ancient human capabilities and ambitions. Whether located in Africa, Arabia, Asia, or some combination of these regions, Ophir represents humanity's ancient drive to explore, trade, and build connections across the vast distances that separate civilizations. Today, as we continue to uncover evidence of ancient trade networks, sophisticated mining operations, and long-distance maritime commerce, the legend of Ophir serves as a reminder that the boundaries between the possible and impossible in the ancient world may be drawn far differently than we once imagined, and that somewhere in the archaeological record, the golden traces of Solomon's distant treasure realm may still be waiting to reveal their secrets to those bold enough to search beyond the horizon of conventional wisdom. Beneath the waves of human memory lies a story so compelling that it has captivated minds for over 2 millennia. A tale of a magnificent civilization that vanished in a single day and night, leaving behind only whispers in ancient texts and endless questions that echo through the corridors of time. The year was approximately 360 BCE when the Greek philosopher Plato first introduced the world to Atlantis in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias. But this was no casual mention. Plato presented Atlantis as historical fact, claiming the account had been passed down through generations, originating from the Egyptian priests who had shared this knowledge with the Greek statesman Solon during his travels to Egypt around 590 BCE. According to Plato's meticulous description, Atlantis was a naval empire located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now know as the Strait of Gibraltar. This wasn't merely another ancient city. It was a civilization that defied the very limits of what seemed possible in the ancient world. The Atlanteans had created a society of unprecedented sophistication, with circular islands connected by bridges and canals, creating a geometric perfection that spoke to their advanced understanding of engineering and urban planning. The capital city itself was a marvel of ancient architecture. Concentric rings of land and water alternated in perfect symmetry, with the innermost island housing a magnificent temple dedicated to Poseidon, the city's patron deity. This temple, Plato tells us, was adorned with gold, silver, and orichalcum, a mysterious metal that was said to glow with its own inner fire. The palace complex nearby rivaled anything the known world had ever seen, its walls lined with brass, tin, and the ever-present orichalcum that seemed to be the hallmark of Atlantean craftsmanship. But Atlantis was more than architectural splendor. The civilization Plato described possessed technology and knowledge that wouldn't be seen again for millennia. Their ships could navigate the vast Atlantic Ocean with precision, their agricultural systems could feed millions, and their military might was so formidable that they had conquered parts of Western Europe and Africa. The Atlanteans had created a society where abundance wasn't just for the elite. Their island paradise provided for all its inhabitants through careful management of natural resources and innovative farming techniques. The timeline Plato provides places Atlantis approximately 9,000 years before his own era, around 9,600 BCE, deep in the Stone Age when most of human civilization consisted of hunter-gatherer societies. This chronological placement immediately raises profound questions about the development of human civilization and whether our understanding of ancient technological capabilities might be fundamentally incomplete. What makes the Atlantis account particularly intriguing is Plato's attention to detail. He describes the island's dimensions, roughly 340 by 230 miles, and its geographical features with the precision of someone describing a place they had personally visited. The climate was described as ideal, with 2 harvests per year, supported by both rainfall and irrigation from the island's abundant springs. The Atlanteans had domesticated elephants and possessed vast mineral wealth, including that enigmatic orichalcum that modern metallurgists still cannot definitively identify. The moral dimension of Plato's account adds another layer of complexity to the story. Initially, the Atlanteans were described as noble and virtuous, blessed by their divine heritage as descendants of Poseidon. Their society functioned as a model of justice and prosperity, with laws that ensured fairness and prevented the concentration of power. However, as generations passed, this virtue began to decay. The Atlanteans became increasingly materialistic and aggressive, their noble nature corrupted by greed and ambition. This moral decline, according to Plato, ultimately sealed their fate. Zeus, observing the corruption that had infected Atlantean society, decided that divine justice demanded their punishment. In a single cataclysmic day and night, Atlantis was swallowed by earthquakes and floods, disappearing beneath the ocean waves forever. The catastrophe was so complete that it left the sea above impassable due to muddy shallows, a detail that generations of explorers would puzzle over. For centuries, scholars have debated whether Plato intended Atlantis as literal history or philosophical allegory. Some argue that the story was crafted to illustrate his political philosophy, a cautionary tale about the dangers of hubris and moral decay in civilizations. The parallels between Atlantis's decline and the political situation in Athens during Plato's lifetime are striking, lending credence to this interpretation. Yet others have taken Plato at his word, launching countless expeditions and investigations to locate the physical remains of this lost civilization. The search for Atlantis has led explorers to every corner of the globe, from the Mediterranean Sea to the Caribbean, from the North Sea to the Pacific Ocean. Each proposed location brings its own compelling evidence and equally compelling contradictions. Archaeological discoveries throughout the 20th and 21st centuries have revealed that advanced civilizations existed far earlier than previously thought. The underwater ruins off the coast of Japan at Yonaguni, the sophisticated stonework at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey dating to 9,500 BCE, and the submerged structures discovered in the Mediterranean all suggest that human technological capabilities in the distant past may have been far more advanced than traditional historical models allow. Modern technology has added new dimensions to the search for Atlantis. Satellite imagery, underwater robotics, and ground-penetrating radar have enabled researchers to explore previously inaccessible locations. Sonar mapping of ocean floors has revealed ancient coastlines and structures that were above water during the last ice age, when sea levels were hundreds of feet lower than today. These discoveries have opened new possibilities for where Atlantis might have been located and what evidence of its existence might still survive. The geological record also offers intriguing possibilities. The end of the last ice age, around 11,700 years ago, was marked by catastrophic climate changes, massive flooding, and rising sea levels that submerged vast areas of coastal land. Volcanic eruptions, such as the one that destroyed the Minoan civilization on Thera around 1600 BCE, demonstrate that advanced ancient civilizations could indeed disappear suddenly due to natural disasters, leaving only fragmentary archaeological evidence behind. Genetic studies of ancient human populations have revealed unexpected migrations and connections between distant civilizations, suggesting that ancient peoples were capable of much more extensive travel and cultural exchange than previously believed. The possibility that knowledge of an advanced ancient civilization could have been preserved in Egyptian records, as Plato claimed, becomes more plausible when viewed through this lens of ancient global connectivity. Cultural anthropologists have noted that flood myths appear in virtually every ancient civilization's oral traditions and religious texts, from the biblical account of Noah to similar stories found in Mesopotamian, Hindu, Native American, and Aboriginal Australian traditions. This worldwide pattern suggests that catastrophic flooding events may have been a shared human experience in the distant past, possibly preserving collective memories of lost civilizations. The enduring fascination with Atlantis reflects something deeper than mere historical curiosity. It represents humanity's persistent sense that we may have lost something profound from our past, a golden age of knowledge, harmony, and technological achievement that was somehow better than what followed. Whether this lost paradise existed in physical reality or lives only in the realm of human imagination, its power to inspire continues undiminished across the centuries. Today, as we face our own environmental challenges and contemplate the fragility of civilizations, the story of Atlantis takes on new relevance. The warning embedded in Plato's account that even the most advanced societies can fall when they lose their moral foundations resonates with contemporary concerns about sustainability, social justice, and the responsible use of technology. Perhaps the greatest mystery of Atlantis is not where it was located, or whether it truly existed, but why this story continues to call to us across the millennia, as if somewhere in our collective memory we retain the echo of something magnificent that was lost beneath the waves of time itself. Deep within the vast emptiness of the Arabian Peninsula, where golden dunes stretch endlessly toward distant horizons, lies one of history's most enigmatic mysteries, a lost city so magnificent that ancient texts describe it as having no equal among the cities of the world, yet so thoroughly vanished that even its precise location has become legend. The story of Iram of the Pillars emerges from the sacred pages of the Quran, where it stands as both historical record and divine warning. In Surah Al-Fajr, the 89th chapter, the city is specifically named. Have you not seen how your Lord dealt with Ad, Iram of the Pillars, the like of which was never created in the land? This isn't merely poetic language, it's presented as historical fact, referencing a civilization so advanced and grandiose that it surpassed all others of its time. According to Islamic tradition and the detailed accounts found in classical Arabic literature, Iram was the crown jewel of the Ad people, a powerful tribe that inhabited the Arabian Peninsula in the distant past. The city's creator, according to these sources, was Shaddad ibn Ad, a king whose ambition knew no earthly bounds. Shaddad had heard descriptions of paradise from ancient prophets, and in his arrogance, declared that he would build an earthly paradise that would rival the divine realm itself. The construction of Iram, as described in these ancient accounts, was an undertaking of unprecedented scale. Shaddad commanded the finest architects, craftsmen and builders from across his vast kingdom to create a city unlike any that had ever existed. The structures were supported by towering pillars, hence the name Iram of the Pillars, crafted from the most precious materials available. Gold and silver adorned every surface, while precious stones were embedded in walls and pathways like common decorations. The city's gardens were said to rival the legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon, with flowing rivers, exotic plants, and fruit trees that bore constantly. The palaces within Iram were architectural marvels, their halls so vast that a person's voice would echo for minutes, their ceilings so high they seemed to touch the clouds. The pillars themselves were described as being of such beauty and craftsmanship that they appeared to be carved from single, massive gemstones, catching and reflecting light in ways that made the entire city seem to glow with an otherworldly radiance. But Iram's magnificence extended beyond mere architectural splendor. The city served as the center of a vast trading empire that controlled the lucrative frankincense routes connecting the Arabian Peninsula with the Mediterranean world, India, and beyond. Archaeological evidence suggests that these ancient trade networks were far more sophisticated than previously understood, with complex systems of caravanserais, navigation techniques, and diplomatic relationships that spanned continents. The Ad people, according to Islamic tradition, were not merely wealthy merchants, but possessed knowledge and capabilities that bordered on the miraculous. They were described as giants in stature, capable of moving massive stones and constructing buildings of impossible scale. Their understanding of engineering, agriculture, and urban planning apparently far exceeded that of their contemporaries, allowing them to create a thriving metropolis in what many consider one of the world's most challenging environments. The downfall of Iram, like that of many legendary cities, came through divine judgment. Islamic sources describe how the Prophet Hud was sent to warn the Ad people about their pride and rejection of divine guidance. Shaddad and his people, intoxicated by their wealth and power, refused to heed these warnings. They believed their magnificent city and advanced civilization made them invulnerable to any force, earthly or divine. The destruction, when it came, was swift and absolute. According to traditional accounts, Shaddad had just completed his earthly paradise and was traveling to see it for the first time when divine wrath struck. A terrible storm arose, not merely wind and sand, but a supernatural tempest that buried the entire city beneath the desert in a single day. The storm was so powerful that it not only destroyed Iram, but erased almost all traces of its existence, leaving only scattered ruins hidden beneath shifting sands. For centuries, Iram of the Pillars remained purely within the realm of religious text and Bedouin legend. Desert nomads occasionally reported glimpsing magnificent ruins appearing briefly when sandstorms shifted the dunes, only to vanish again beneath the desert's restless surface. These tales were generally dismissed by Western scholars as mere folklore, lacking the archaeological evidence necessary to establish historical credibility. The modern search for Iram began in earnest during the 20th century, driven by advances in satellite technology and desert archaeology. NASA's Landsat satellites, originally designed for geological and environmental monitoring, began revealing previously invisible patterns beneath the Arabian Peninsula's sand cover. These images showed ancient roads, abandoned settlements, and geological formations that suggested extensive human activity in regions now completely barren. One of the most significant breakthroughs came through the work of amateur archaeologist and filmmaker Nicholas Clapp, who became obsessed with finding the lost city after reading about it in classical Arabic texts. Using satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar, Clapp and his team identified what appeared to be ancient trade routes converging on a site in the Dhofar region of Oman, near the border with Saudi Arabia's Empty Quarter. The location, known locally as Shisa or Ubar, revealed remarkable archaeological treasures when excavations began in the 1990s. The site showed evidence of sophisticated urban planning, with complex irrigation systems, multi-story buildings, and artifacts that demonstrated extensive trade connections with civilizations across the ancient world. Pottery fragments, glass beads, and metalwork found at the site indicated that this had indeed been a major center of commerce and culture. Most intriguingly, the excavations revealed that the city had been built over a massive underground cavern system. Geological evidence suggested that the entire settlement had suddenly collapsed when these caverns could no longer support the weight of the structures above, causing the city to literally disappear into the earth, a fate that eerily paralleled the divine destruction described in ancient texts. Carbon dating of organic materials found at the site indicated that the settlement had flourished between approximately 2800 BCE and 300 CE. With its peak prosperity occurring during the height of the frankincense trade. This timeline places the city's existence well within the historical period described in Islamic tradition, though considerably more recent than some classical accounts suggested. The frankincense connection proved particularly significant. The aromatic resin, more valuable than gold in the ancient world, was harvested primarily from trees that grew in the Dhofar Mountains. Control of the frankincense trade would have generated enormous wealth, easily sufficient to fund the construction of a magnificent city. The strategic location of Ubar, positioned at the intersection of multiple trade routes leading to various markets, would have made it a natural center for this lucrative commerce. Modern climate research has revealed that the Arabian Peninsula experienced significant environmental changes over the past several millennia. During certain periods, the region that is now the empty quarter was considerably more hospitable, with higher rainfall, extensive grasslands, and numerous oases. This paleoclimate data suggests that large, prosperous cities could indeed have existed in areas that are now completely uninhabitable desert. Genetic studies of ancient human populations in the Arabian Peninsula have also provided support for the historical existence of advanced civilizations in the region. DNA analysis of skeletal remains has revealed that ancient Arabian populations were more diverse and numerous than previously thought, suggesting the presence of large cosmopolitan cities that attracted people from across the known world. The search for Iram continues to this day, with new technologies revealing additional sites throughout the Arabian Peninsula that show signs of ancient urban development. Ground-penetrating radar, satellite archaeology, and advanced geological surveys have identified dozens of locations where substantial settlements once existed, now buried beneath centuries of accumulated sand. Perhaps most remarkably, some of these newly discovered sites show evidence of the sophisticated engineering and monumental architecture described in classical accounts of Aram. Foundations of enormous structures, complex water management systems, and urban layouts of impressive scale have been detected at various locations throughout the empty quarter, suggesting that the legend of a magnificent lost city may be based on very real archaeological remains. The cultural impact of Iram extends far beyond its historical significance. The city has become a symbol of human ambition and divine justice, representing both the heights of earthly achievement and the consequences of pride and moral corruption. In Islamic culture, Iram serves as a powerful reminder that no earthly power, regardless of its magnificence, can stand against divine will. For archaeologists and historians, Iram represents something equally profound: the possibility that our understanding of ancient Arabian civilization is fundamentally incomplete. If a city as magnificent as Iram could exist, and then vanish so completely that its very existence became legend, what other advanced civilizations might be waiting for discovery beneath the world's deserts? The mystery of Iram of the Pillars continues to challenge our assumptions about the ancient world, suggesting that the line between legend and history may be far thinner than we imagine, and that beneath the shifting sands of time, the shadows of lost greatness may still be waiting to emerge into the light. Along the walls of an ancient Egyptian temple, carved in stone that has endured for 3.5 millennia, lies one of history's most tantalizing archaeological puzzles. Detailed depictions of a distant land so sacred to the Egyptians that they called it Ta-Netjer, the land of the gods, yet so thoroughly lost to time that modern scholars cannot agree on which continent it occupied. The story of Punt emerges from the very dawn of Egyptian civilization, woven into the fabric of their religious beliefs, economic prosperity, and cultural identity. Unlike many lost civilizations that exist only in legend, Punt is extensively documented in Egyptian records spanning over 2,000 years, from the Old Kingdom through the Ptolemaic period. Yet despite this wealth of documentation, the land remains as elusive as any mythical realm. The most spectacular evidence of Punt's existence adorns the mortuary temple of Queen Hatshepsut at Deir el-Bahari, where an entire colonnade is dedicated to depicting her famous expedition to this mysterious land around 1470 BCE. These aren't vague artistic representations. They're detailed visual records showing Puntite architecture, people, flora, fauna, and trade goods with a precision that suggests first-hand observation. The artists who created these reliefs clearly worked from accurate sources, possibly including sketches made during the actual voyage. According to these temple inscriptions, Hatshepsut's expedition consisted of 5 ships that sailed from a Red Sea port, navigating southward to reach Punt, after what must have been a considerable journey. The fleet was received by Parehu, the ruler of Punt, and his wife Ati, whose distinctive physical appearance, particularly her pronounced curves and unique features, has provided anthropologists with crucial clues about Puntite ethnicity and geography. The treasures that Hatshepsut's expedition brought back to Egypt read like an inventory of the ancient world's most precious commodities. Myrrh trees, complete with root balls carefully preserved for transplantation in Egyptian temple gardens, formed the centerpiece of the cargo. These sacred trees were essential for Egyptian religious ceremonies. Their aromatic resin burned as incense in temples and used in the mummification process. The successful transplantation of living myrrh trees from Punt to Egypt represents one of history's earliest documented examples of long-distance botanical transportation. But myrrh was just the beginning. The expedition returned with vast quantities of frankincense, another aromatic resin that was literally worth its weight in silver in the ancient world. Gold, measured by the Daban, arrived in quantities that significantly enriched the Egyptian treasury. Precious woods, particularly ebony, were loaded onto the ships, along with ivory tusks, leopard skins, and exotic animals including baboons, monkeys, and what appear to be giraffes based on the temple depictions. The Egyptian relationship with Punt predated Hatshepsut by over a millennium. References to Punt appear in texts from the Old Kingdom, including accounts from the reign of Sahur, circa 2450 BCE, who also sent expeditions to this distant land. The continuity of this trade relationship across such vast spans of time suggests that Punt was not merely a single location, but potentially a broader cultural and geographical region with which Egypt maintained consistent contact. What makes Punt particularly significant in Egyptian culture was its designation as the sacred land of the gods, specifically associated with the birthplace of their deities. Egyptian texts describe Punt as the location where the sun god Ra first rose, and from where the gods originated before coming to Egypt. This religious significance elevated Punt beyond a mere trading partner to a place of profound spiritual importance. The Egyptian belief that their ancestors originated in Punt adds another dimension to this mystery. Several texts refer to Punt as the ancestral homeland of both the Egyptian gods and the Egyptian people themselves. This connection suggests that the relationship between Egypt and Punt may have been built on cultural and ethnic ties that extended back to prehistory. The physical descriptions of Puntites preserved in Egyptian art provide crucial evidence for determining the land's location. The people are depicted with reddish-brown skin, distinctive facial features, and wearing their hair in ways that anthropologists have compared to various African and Arabian populations. The houses shown in the reliefs appear to be built on stilts, suggesting a coastal or riverine environment where flooding was common. The flora and fauna depicted in Puntite scenes have been analysed by botanists and zoologists seeking geographical clues. The presence of myrrh and frankincense trees immediately points to regions where these species naturally occur, primarily the Horn of Africa and southern Arabian Peninsula. The animals shown, including giraffes, rhinoceroses, and specific species of monkeys, further narrow the possible locations to regions where these creatures coexisted in ancient times. Modern archaeological efforts to locate Punt have focused on several key regions. The eastern coast of Africa, particularly modern-day Somalia, Eritrea, and Ethiopia, remains the most popular candidate. The region's historical production of frankincense and myrrh, combined with geographical features that match Egyptian descriptions, makes it a compelling choice. Archaeological excavations in these areas have revealed evidence of ancient settlements engaged in long-distance trade during the appropriate time periods. The discovery of ancient Egyptian artifacts and inscriptions along the African Red Sea coast provides tangible evidence of Egyptian presence in these regions. Harbour installations at sites like Mersa Gawasis have yielded ship timbers, anchors, and cargo boxes specifically labelled as being from expeditions to Punt. These archaeological finds confirm that Egyptians were actively sailing the Red Sea in pursuit of puntite treasures. However, the Arabian Peninsula cannot be dismissed as a potential location for punt. The eastern and southern coasts of Arabia also produced frankincense and myrrh, and archaeological evidence demonstrates extensive ancient trade networks connecting this region with Egypt. Some scholars argue that punt may have referred to multiple locations involved in the incense trade, rather than a single geographical entity. Recent underwater archaeological discoveries have added new dimensions to the search for punt. Ancient harbour facilities and shipwrecks along both African and Arabian Red Sea coasts reveal the extent of maritime activity during the periods when Egyptian puntite trade was most active. These discoveries demonstrate that ancient navigators possessed sophisticated knowledge of Red Sea wind patterns, currents, and navigation routes. Genetic studies of ancient populations have provided additional clues about potential puntite locations. DNA analysis of mummified baboons in Egyptian tombs, animals explicitly recorded as imports from Punt has traced their origins to specific regions in the Horn of Africa. This scientific evidence provides some of the most concrete data yet obtained about Punt's possible location. The chemical analysis of archaeological specimens has yielded equally intriguing results. Isotope analysis of ancient Egyptian incense residues has been compared with modern samples from various myrrh and frankincense-producing regions. While not conclusive, these studies suggest strong similarities between Egyptian ritual incense and resins from the Horn of Africa region. Climate reconstruction for the Red Sea region during ancient times reveals that environmental conditions were significantly different from today. Many areas that are now arid desert experienced higher rainfall and supported larger populations during the periods of active Egyptian puntite trade. This paleoclimatic data expands the range of possible locations and suggests that evidence of punt might lie in regions that now appear too barren to have supported major trading centers. The economic scale of Egyptian puntite trade, sustained over 2 millennia, indicates that Punt possessed sophisticated political and commercial institutions. The standardization of trade goods, the apparent diplomatic protocols observed during expeditions, and the consistency of supply all suggest a well-organized partner capable of managing complex international commerce. Perhaps most intriguingly, the abrupt cessation of references to Punt in Egyptian records after the New Kingdom raises questions about what became of this once vital trading partner. Did environmental changes, political upheavals, or shifts in trade routes cause Punt to fade from Egyptian contact? Or did the land that Egyptians called divine simply evolve into something unrecognizable, its ancient identity lost as new peoples and powers emerged in the regions where incense trees grew? Today, as archaeologists employ ever more sophisticated technologies in their search for ancient Punt, from satellite archaeology to environmental DNA analysis, the land of the gods continues to guard its secrets. Yet each discovery, each ancient inscription decoded, each artifact analyzed, brings us closer to understanding this civilization that played such a crucial role in shaping one of history's greatest empires. The mystery of Punt ultimately reminds us that the ancient world was far more interconnected than traditional narratives suggest, and that somewhere along the shores of the Red Sea or in the incense-bearing highlands beyond, the physical remains of the land that Egyptians considered the birthplace of their gods may still await discovery, preserved beneath millennia of sand and time, holding answers to questions that have echoed through the corridors of history since the last Egyptian ship returned from the divine shores of Tanetja. In the shallow turquoise waters of the Arabian Gulf, where pearl divers once plunged into depths that concealed more than lustrous treasures, lies evidence of a civilization so ancient that it witnessed the birth of writing itself, a sacred island paradise that the world's first literate culture believed to be the garden where humanity began, and where death itself had not yet learned to tread. The story of Dilmun emerges from the very oldest texts known to humanity, pressed into clay tablets in cuneiform script over 5,000 years ago. In the Sumerian creation myths, Dilmun appears not merely as a distant trading partner, but as a holy land of profound significance, a pure, pristine place where the gods dwelt before the creation of mankind, where the lion did not kill, the wolf did not seize the lamb, and there was no old age, disease, or sorrow. The Epic of Gilgamesh, humanity's oldest great literary work, places Dilmun at the center of immortality itself. It was here that Utnapishtim, the sole human survivor of the Great Flood, was granted eternal life by the gods. When Gilgamesh sought the secret of immortality, his journey led him to Dilmun, described as lying far to the east where the sun rises, across dangerous waters that only the most heroic could navigate. But Dilmun was far more than myth. Thousands of Mesopotamian commercial texts document a thriving trade relationship with this maritime civilization. Clay tablets from Ur, Babylon, and other Sumerian cities record shipments of copper, dates, pearls, and precious stones arriving from Dilmun's merchants. The land served as a crucial intermediary in one of the world's first international trade networks, connecting the Indus Valley civilization with Mesopotamia through maritime routes that spanned thousands of miles. The Sumerian texts provide remarkably specific details about Dilmun's unique characteristics. The land was famed for its sweet water springs that bubbled up from underground, an almost miraculous phenomenon in the arid environment of the Gulf region. These springs, described as the gift of Enki, the god of wisdom and fresh water, made Dilmun an oasis of life in an otherwise challenging landscape. The texts speak of Dilmun as the place where the sun rises, suggesting an eastern location from the Mesopotamian perspective. For millennia, the location of Dilmun remained one of archaeology's most tantalizing mysteries. Then, beginning in the 1950s, archaeological excavations on the island nation of Bahrain began revealing evidence of a sophisticated Bronze Age civilization that matched the Mesopotamian descriptions with startling accuracy. The island's abundant freshwater springs, unique in the Gulf region, immediately connected the physical landscape with the ancient texts. The archaeological evidence that emerged from Bahrain's soil was nothing short of spectacular. Excavations revealed a civilization that had flourished for over 2,000 years, from approximately 3000 BCE to 300 BCE. The Dilmun culture had created massive temple complexes, sophisticated urban planning, and a burial tradition that resulted in the largest Bronze Age cemetery in the world, over 170,000 burial mounds that still dot Bahrain's landscape like ancient tears frozen in earth and stone. The Barber Temple, excavated near Bahrain's northern coast, provided crucial evidence linking the island to ancient Dilmun. This massive complex, rebuilt multiple times over centuries, featured sacred pools fed by underground springs, precisely matching Sumerian descriptions of Dilmun's holy water sources. The temple's architecture showed clear Mesopotamian influences while maintaining distinctive local characteristics, suggesting a culture that was both connected to and independent from its powerful neighbors. Perhaps most remarkably, archaeologists discovered that ancient Dilmun had developed one of the world's earliest standardized weight systems, with carved stone weights that facilitated accurate trade across vast distances. These weights, found throughout the Gulf region and as far away as Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley, demonstrate Dilmun's central role in Bronze Age international commerce. The precision of these standards suggests a highly organized mercantile society with sophisticated governmental oversight. The discovery of Dilmun seals provided another breakthrough in understanding this lost civilization. These small stone stamps, used to mark ownership and authenticate documents, featured distinctive designs combining Mesopotamian, Indus Valley, and unique local motifs. The seals often depicted sacred scenes involving bulls, gazelles, and human figures in poses suggesting religious significance. Most intriguingly, many seals featured symbols that appear to represent the sacred springs of Dilmun, confirming the central importance of fresh water to the civilization's identity. The strategic position of Dilmun made it the Singapore of the ancient world. Located at the crossroads of maritime trade routes, Dilmun's merchants controlled the flow of goods between three of humanity's earliest civilizations: copper from Oman, timber from India, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, and textiles from the Indus Valley all passed through Dilmun's ports on their way to the markets of Mesopotamia. In return, Mesopotamian grains, oils, and manufactured goods flowed eastward. Recent underwater archaeological surveys around Bahrain have revealed additional evidence of Dilmun's maritime prowess. Ancient harbour installations, now submerged due to changing sea levels, show sophisticated engineering, including breakwaters, quays, and warehouse foundations. These discoveries demonstrate that Dilmun possessed advanced knowledge of hydraulic engineering and harbour construction, enabling them to handle the large vessels required for long-distance trade. The pearling industry, which remained Bahrain's primary source of wealth well into the 20th century, appears to have ancient roots in Dilmun's civilization. Archaeological evidence, including specialized tools and references in Mesopotamian texts, suggests that Dilmun's pearl divers were harvesting the Gulf's treasures 5,000 years ago, establishing a tradition that would endure for millennia. But Dilmun's significance extended beyond commerce. The civilization appears to have played a crucial role in the spread of agricultural techniques and crops throughout the ancient world. Date palms, which became essential to life throughout the Middle East, may have been first domesticated and cultivated on a large scale in Dilmun. The sophisticated irrigation systems discovered by archaeologists show how the Dilmunites maximized their limited freshwater resources to create agricultural abundance. The religious significance of Dilmun in Mesopotamian belief systems suggests the civilization wielded considerable soft power in addition to its economic influence. Sumerian kings sought legitimacy through claimed connections to Dilmun, and Mesopotamian temples maintained special relationships with Dilmun's religious centers. This spiritual authority gave Dilmun's rulers diplomatic leverage that extended far beyond what their military power alone could have commanded. The decline of Dilmun remains one of the civilization's enduring mysteries. After thriving for over 2 millennia, references to Dilmun in Mesopotamian texts gradually diminished. By the time Alexander the Great's admirals explored the Gulf in the 4th century BCE, they referred to Bahrain by the Greek name Tylos, with no apparent knowledge of its identity as the legendary Dilmun. Climate change may have played a role in Dilmun's transformation. Studies of ancient groundwater and sediment cores suggest that the freshwater springs that made Dilmun unique began to diminish in flow around the 1st millennium BCE. Without abundant fresh water, Dilmun would have lost both its agricultural advantages and its religious significance as the land of sacred springs. Geopolitical shifts also contributed to Dilmun's eclipse. The rise of new trade routes, the decline of Sumerian civilization, and the emergence of new powers in the region all reduced Dilmun's strategic importance. The island that had once been essential to international commerce found itself increasingly marginalized as trade patterns evolved. Modern archaeological techniques continue to reveal new aspects of Dilmun civilization. Satellite imagery has identified previously unknown settlement patterns extending across Bahrain and into the eastern province of Saudi Arabia, suggesting that Dilmun's cultural influence extended well beyond the island itself. Environmental DNA analysis of ancient sediments is providing new insights into Dilmun's agriculture and the biological diversity of the ancient paradise. Today, as Bahrain positions itself as a modern financial and commercial hub, it consciously echoes its Dilmun heritage. The island nation's museums display the treasures of this ancient civilization, while ongoing excavations continue to uncover new evidence of Dilmun's sophisticated culture. The Bahrain Fort, built atop layers of Dilmun-era settlements, stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, preserving the physical remains of the civilization that once made this small island the paradise of the ancient world. The rediscovery of Dilmun has validated ancient texts that scholars once dismissed as pure mythology. The correlation between Sumerian descriptions and archaeological evidence demonstrates that oral traditions and ancient literature can preserve accurate historical information across millennia. This realization has profound implications for how we approach other lost civilizations mentioned in ancient texts. Perhaps most significantly, Dilmun's story reminds us that paradises need not be mythical. Through ingenuity, strategic positioning, and sustainable resource management, the ancient Dilmunites created a genuine oasis, a place of abundance, peace, and prosperity that seemed divinely blessed to their contemporaries. Their success in transforming a small island into the commercial and spiritual center of the ancient world offers lessons that resonate even today. As archaeologists continue to excavate Bahrain's ancient tells and explore the waters surrounding the island, new chapters of Dilmun's story continue to emerge. Each discovery adds details to our understanding of this remarkable civilization, yet deepens the mystery of how a culture sophisticated enough to influence the entire ancient world could fade so completely from memory that its very existence became legend. The search for Dilmun has ended in success, yet the questions it raises about human civilization, cultural memory, and the relationship between myth and history ensure that this ancient paradise will continue to fascinate and inspire those who seek to understand humanity's deepest past, a past where gods and mortals met at sacred springs, and where the sun first rose on human civilization itself, beyond the scorching horizons of ancient Mesopotamia, where the known world dissolved into whispered rumors and traders' tales, lay a land whose black mountains bled the green blood of civilization itself. Copper ore so pure and abundant that it fueled the Bronze Age revolution and transformed primitive societies into the world's first empires. The name Magan first appears in humanity's oldest written records, etched into clay tablets that predate the pyramids of Egypt. In Sumerian texts from as early as 2500 BCE, Magan emerges not as a mythical paradise or divine realm, but as a hard reality of ancient geopolitics, a distant land whose mineral wealth was so crucial to Mesopotamian civilization that kings boasted of their connections to it, and its ships were welcome in the harbors of the world's first cities. Unlike many lost civilizations that exist in the twilight between history and legend, Magan's existence is documented in thousands of commercial texts, royal inscriptions, and diplomatic correspondence. The Sumerian king list mentions rulers who claimed dominion over Magan. Sargon of Akkad, the world's first empire builder, boasted that ships from Magan docked at his capital. His grandson, Naram-Sin, led military expeditions to Magan, suggesting a relationship that extended beyond mere trade to political domination and resource control. The copper of Magan wasn't simply another trade commodity. It was the strategic resource that enabled the Bronze Age itself. By alloying copper with tin, ancient metallurgists created bronze, a material that revolutionized warfare, agriculture, and craftsmanship. The quality of Magan's copper was legendary. Texts describe it as exceptionally pure, requiring less refining than ore from other sources. This superior quality made Magan copper highly sought after throughout the ancient world. But Magan supplied more than copper. Mesopotamian texts catalogue an impressive array of exports: diorite and gabbro stone for royal statues, timber for shipbuilding, dates, and onions. Most intriguingly, several texts mention the mighty ships of Magan, vessels apparently renowned for their size and seaworthiness. These ships, capable of carrying up to 20 tons of cargo, represented some of the largest vessels of their time. The geographical descriptions of Magan found in ancient texts provide tantalizing clues to its location. It lay across the lower sea, what we now call the Arabian Gulf, and was characterized by mountainous terrain rich in copper ore. The journey from Mesopotamian ports to Magan took several weeks, suggesting considerable distance. Most significantly, Magan was consistently mentioned alongside Dilmun, modern Bahrain, and Meluha, possibly the Indus Valley, placing it firmly within the Gulf's Bronze Age trading network. For centuries, the location of Magan remained one of archaeology's great puzzles. Then, beginning in the 1970s, archaeological discoveries in the Sultanate of Oman began revealing evidence of an ancient civilization that matched the Mesopotamian descriptions with remarkable precision. The copper-bearing mountains of Oman, particularly the Al-Hajjah range, contained extensive evidence of ancient mining operations dating to exactly the period when Magan was supplying copper to Mesopotamia. The scale of these ancient mining operations defied all expectations. At sites like Mesar and Lasalle, archaeologists discovered vast networks of mining tunnels, some extending hundreds of meters underground. Sophisticated ore processing facilities, including crushing platforms, washing installations, and smelting furnaces, demonstrated a level of metallurgical knowledge that represented the cutting edge of Bronze Age technology. Carbon dating of timber supports found in mine shafts confirmed that large-scale copper extraction was occurring from at least 2500 BCE through 1800 BCE, precisely matching the period when Mesopotamian texts most frequently mention Magan. The emergence of the an-Nar culture, 2600–2000 BCE in the UAE and Oman, provided the archaeological context for understanding Magan as more than just a mining operation. This sophisticated civilization created monumental architecture, including massive circular tombs built with precisely cut stones that required advanced engineering skills to construct. The an-Nar people developed extensive irrigation systems that transformed desert landscapes into productive agricultural areas, supporting populations large enough to sustain industrial-scale mining operations. One of the most spectacular discoveries linking Oman to ancient Magan came from the port site of Ras al-Jins. Here, archaeologists uncovered evidence of a major Bronze Age maritime hub, complete with shipbuilding facilities, warehouses, and residential quarters for an international population. The site yielded Mesopotamian pottery, Indus Valley seals, and locally produced goods, confirming its role as a crucial node in the ancient world's maritime trade network. The discovery of numerous Bronze Age boats along Oman's coast has provided insights into the mighty ships of Magan mentioned in Mesopotamian texts. These vessels, built from imported wood and waterproofed with bitumen, were clearly capable of long-distance voyages. Rock art throughout Oman depicts these ships, often shown carrying what appear to be copper ingots, providing a visual record of the trade that sustained Magan's prosperity. Perhaps most remarkably, isotope analysis of copper artifacts found throughout Mesopotamia has allowed scientists to trace their origin to specific ore sources. A significant percentage of Mesopotamian copper objects show isotopic signatures matching ore from Oman's mountains, providing scientific confirmation of the ancient trade relationship described in cuneiform texts. The social organization required to sustain Magan's mining industry reveals a complex hierarchical society. Mining operations of such scale demanded specialized workers, sophisticated logistics, and centralized control. Evidence suggests that Magan developed one of the world's first industrial economies, with entire communities dedicated to extracting, processing, and transporting copper to distant markets. Water management in this arid environment represented another remarkable achievement of Magan civilization. The remains of extensive phallage systems, underground water channels, demonstrate how ancient engineers captured and distributed scarce water resources to support both mining operations and agriculture. These irrigation works, some still functioning today, allowed Magan to sustain large populations in one of the world's most challenging environments. The relationship between Magan and Mesopotamia wasn't always peaceful. Texts from the Ur III period describe military campaigns against Magan, suggesting attempts to directly control copper sources rather than rely on trade. The Mesopotamian king Shulgi boasted of subduing Magan, though the mountainous terrain and distance from Mesopotamia likely made permanent occupation impossible. Cultural exchange between Magan and Mesopotamia extended beyond commerce. Cylinder seals found in Oman show clear Mesopotamian influence while maintaining distinctive local characteristics. Religious practices also showed syncretism, with Mesopotamian deities apparently worshipped alongside local gods. This cultural blending created a unique civilization that was both connected to and distinct from its trading partners. The decline of Magan as a distinct entity in Mesopotamian texts after 1800 BCE presents an intriguing mystery. The copper mines continued to operate, but references to Magan disappear from commercial and diplomatic records. Several factors may explain this transformation. The rise of new copper sources elsewhere in the ancient world reduced Mesopotamia's dependence on Magan's ore. Political changes in both regions may have disrupted traditional trade relationships. Climate change possibly played a role in Magan's transformation. Evidence suggests that the region experienced increasing aridity during the second millennium BCE, potentially making large-scale mining operations more difficult to sustain. The collapse of the Indus Valley civilization around the same time would have disrupted the triangular trade network that had enriched all three regions. Modern archaeological work continues to reveal new aspects of Magan civilization. LiDAR surveys have identified previously unknown settlement patterns in Oman's interior, suggesting that Magan's population and cultural influence extended far beyond the mining regions. Underwater archaeology along the Omani coast promises to yield new insights into Magan's maritime capabilities and trade connections. The rediscovery of Magan has profound implications for understanding Bronze Age globalization. This ancient civilization demonstrates that complex international trade networks, industrial-scale resource extraction, and sophisticated technological exchange existed far earlier than traditionally believed. Magan's miners and merchants were pioneers of globalization, creating economic interdependencies that shaped the ancient world's development. Today, as Oman develops its economy beyond oil dependency, the nation draws inspiration from its Magan heritage. Museums showcase the archaeological treasures of this ancient civilization, while the restored Falaj systems stand as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The copper that once enriched ancient Magan continues to be mined, connecting modern industry to 5,000 years of metallurgical tradition. The story of Magan reminds us that the resources that shape civilizations often come from the margins, from harsh landscapes where human ingenuity must overcome natural challenges. The mountains of Oman, which seemed like the edge of the world to ancient Mesopotamians, proved to contain the raw materials essential for technological progress. As archaeologists continue to excavate ancient sites throughout the Arabian Peninsula, new chapters of Magan's story continue to unfold. Each discovery adds complexity to our understanding of this remarkable civilization that managed to maintain its independence while serving as the ancient world's primary copper supplier. The Black Mountains that once bled green for Mesopotamian furnaces still guard secrets of a civilization that found wealth in stone and built prosperity in the desert. The mystery of Magan has largely been solved through the marriage of textual analysis and archaeological investigation, yet questions remain about the full extent of this ancient power, the nature of its government, and the daily lives of the people who descended into dark tunnels to extract the ore that would forge empires half a world away. People whose labor lit the Bronze Age itself, and whose legacy endures in every ancient copper artifact that bears the isotopic signature of their distant homeland. In the great harbour of as Bronze Age merchants tallied their inventories on clay tablets, they recorded goods from a distant land whose very name evoked mystery and wealth, a civilization so advanced that its craftsmen created beads too fine for Mesopotamian artisans to replicate, yet so thoroughly lost that its own written language remains undeciphered, keeping its true name and history locked in silence after 4,000 years. Meluhha emerges from the cuneiform tablets of ancient Mesopotamia as one of the three great trading partners of the Bronze Age world, alongside Dilmun and Magan. But while those civilizations have been tentatively located and partially understood, Meluha presents a paradox that challenges our understanding of ancient history. A civilization simultaneously well documented in foreign sources and utterly mute in its own voice. The Mesopotamian texts paint a vivid picture of Meluha's material wealth. Ships from Meluha, distinguished by their distinctive design and exceptional cargo capacity, arrived at Sumerian ports laden with treasures that defined luxury in the ancient world. Carnelian beads of extraordinary craftsmanship, lapis lazuli from distant mines, gold dust, hardwoods including ebony and sisu, copper objects, exotic animals such as elephants and water buffalo, and even peacocks, all flowed from this eastern land into the markets of Mesopotamia. The quality of Melahite craftsmanship earned special mention in ancient records. Carnelian beads from Meluha were so finely made, with perfectly drilled holes so narrow that modern archaeologists marvel at the precision achieved without metal drills, that they became the gold standard of the bead trade. These microscopic perforations, some less than 0.5 millimeters in diameter, required technology and skill that wouldn't be replicated for millennia. Sargon of Akkad, whose empire represented humanity's first multi-ethnic state, boasted in royal inscriptions that ships from Meluha docked at his capital of Akkad. His pride in this achievement suggests that attracting Melahite merchants was a significant diplomatic and economic accomplishment. The presence of Melahite villages in Mesopotamian cities, mentioned in texts from Lagash and other urban centers, indicates that this wasn't merely long-distance trade, but included permanent expatriate communities. The geographical clues embedded in these ancient texts pointed consistently eastward, beyond the Arabian Gulf, to a land accessed by sea routes that required considerable maritime expertise to navigate. The journey from Mesopotamia to Meluha apparently involved stops at Dilmun, Bahrain, and possibly Magan, Oman, suggesting a well-established maritime highway connecting these Bronze Age civilizations. For generations, scholars puzzled over Meluha's location, proposing sites from Africa to Southeast Asia. Then, as archaeological excavations in the Indus Valley during the early 20th century began revealing cities of unprecedented sophistication, a remarkable correlation emerged. The trade goods associated with Meluha in Mesopotamian texts matched precisely the archaeological evidence from Harappan sites: the same carnelian beads, the same ivory work, the same timber species. The Indus Valley civilization, as modern archaeology revealed it, defied all expectations of what Bronze Age society could achieve. Spreading across an area larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined, encompassing over 1 million square kilometers of what is now Pakistan and northwestern India, this civilization supported an estimated 5 million inhabitants at its peak, nearly 10% of the world's population at the time. The cities of this civilization displayed urban planning that wouldn't be equaled until the modern era. Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, the two largest excavated sites, reveal street grids laid out with mathematical precision, with main thoroughfares up to 10 meters wide, running in perfect cardinal directions. Every structure, from humble workshops to elite residences, was built using standardized fired bricks in ratios of 1.24, suggesting centralized planning and quality control on an industrial scale. The technological achievements of the Indus civilization align remarkably with Meluha's reputation for superior craftsmanship. Archaeological evidence reveals workshops dedicated to bead making, with specialized tools and techniques for working carnelian that involved complex heating processes to enhance the stone's color. The discovery of drilling tools with tips made from ernestite, a harder-than-steel mineral, explains how Harappan craftsmen achieved their microscopic perforations. Perhaps most remarkably, every major Indus city featured sophisticated water management systems that surpassed anything in the contemporary world. Individual homes had private bathrooms with seated latrines connected to covered drainage systems. The Great Bath at Mohenjo-Daro, a public pool complex with waterproof brick construction and an advanced drainage system, represents the world's earliest known public water tank. The discovery of Indus seals throughout Mesopotamia provided the smoking gun linking the Indus Valley civilization to ancient Meluhha. These small steatite objects, featuring unique iconography, including the famous unicorn motif and undeciphered script, have been found at Ur, Kish, and other Mesopotamian sites in archaeological layers dating precisely to periods when texts mention active trade with Meluhha. Even more convincing was the discovery of Mesopotamian cylinder seals at Indus sites, along with carnelian beads etched with cuneiform inscriptions. These reciprocal finds demonstrated not just trade but cultural exchange between the two civilizations. The presence of standardized weights throughout the Indus realm, based on a system compatible with Mesopotamian measurements, further confirmed systematic commercial relationships. The maritime prowess attributed to Meluhha in ancient texts finds validation in archaeological discoveries along the Arabian Sea coast. The Harappan port of Lothal in Gujarat featured a sophisticated dockyard with a basin 218 meters long and 37 meters wide, connected to the sea by channels and equipped with a sluice gate to maintain water levels. This structure, possibly the world's first tidal dock, could accommodate the large vessels described in Mesopotamian accounts of Melahite shipping. Recent archaeological work at sites like Dolavira has revealed additional evidence of Harappan technological sophistication. A complex water harvesting system captured seasonal rainfall in massive reservoirs carved from solid rock. A unique signboard with large Indus script characters, possibly the world's first billboard, suggests a literate population engaged with written communication in public spaces. The Indus script itself remains one of archaeology's most frustrating puzzles. Despite thousands of inscribed objects and decades of computational analysis, the script resists decipherment. Without bilingual texts like the Rosetta Stone, scholars cannot unlock the language of Meluhha. The brevity of most inscriptions, averaging only 5 symbols, suggests they may be names, titles, or ownership marks rather than extended texts, further complicating decipherment efforts. This linguistic silence creates a profound asymmetry in our knowledge. We know what Mesopotamians thought of Meluhha, what they bought from Meluhite merchants, even where Meluhite expatriates lived in Sumerian cities. But we don't know what the people of Meluhha called themselves, their cities, their gods, or their kings. Their own perspectives on their Mesopotamian trading partners, their literary traditions, their historical records, all remain locked behind the barrier of an undeciphered script. The decline of the Indus Valley civilization, around 1900 BCE, corresponds remarkably with the disappearance of references to Meluhha in Mesopotamian texts. This wasn't a sudden collapse, but a gradual process spanning several centuries. Climate change appears to have played a crucial role. Isotope studies indicate a weakening of the monsoon system that would have disrupted agriculture. The drying of the Gagga-Hakra river system, along which many Indus cities were located, would have been catastrophic for urban populations. Yet the end of the Indus cities didn't mean the disappearance of their population or cultural traditions. Archaeological evidence shows population movements eastward into the Ganges Valley and southward into Gujarat and Maharashtra. Cultural elements distinctive to the Indus civilization, architectural techniques, craft traditions, religious symbols continued in these regions, transformed but not eliminated. Recent genetic studies have added another dimension to understanding ancient Meluhha. DNA analysis from skeletal remains at Harappan sites reveals a population with diverse ancestry, including components from ancient Iranian farmers and South Asian hunter-gatherers. This genetic mixture appears unique to the Indus Valley civilization period, supporting its identification as a distinct cultural and biological population, the people the Mesopotamians knew as Meluhites. Maritime archaeological surveys in the Arabian Sea continue to yield evidence of Bronze Age trade networks. Shipwrecks containing Harappan pottery have been located off the Makran coast, while stone anchors of Indus type have been found at sites along ancient sailing routes. These discoveries gradually map the maritime highways that connected Meluhha to its western trading partners. The sheer scale of Indus urban planning raises profound questions about political organization. Unlike Mesopotamia or Egypt, the Indus civilization left no clear evidence of kingship, no royal palaces, no monumental tombs, no battle scenes or royal propaganda. This has led some scholars to propose alternative models of governance, perhaps involving merchant guilds or religious authorities rather than traditional monarchs. Modern satellite archaeology continues to expand our understanding of Meluhha's true extent. Remote sensing has identified hundreds of previously unknown Harappan sites, revealing a settlement pattern of remarkable density and organization. The civilization's influence extended from Afghanistan to Maharashtra, from Baluchistan to the Yamuna River, a cultural sphere that dwarfed contemporary civilizations. Today, as South Asia reclaims its ancient heritage, the legacy of Meluhha, Indus Valley civilization, takes on new significance. Museums in India and Pakistan showcase Harappan artifacts that embody technological and artistic achievements unmatched in their era. The planned cities of Chandigarh and Islamabad consciously echo Harappan urban design principles, connecting modern national identity to Bronze Age precedents. The equation of Meluhha with the Indus Valley civilization, while not absolutely proven, represents one of ancient history's most compelling correlations. The convergence of textual, archaeological, and scientific evidence creates a narrative framework that explains both Mesopotamian records and Indus archaeological remains. Yet crucial mysteries remain: the content of the Indus script, the nature of Harappan religion and governance, the specific causes of urban abandonment. As archaeological techniques grow more sophisticated and new sites yield their secrets, our understanding of Meluhha continues to evolve. Each season brings new discoveries, a workshop here, a seal there, another piece of the vast puzzle that was Bronze Age globalization. The silence of the Indus script may yet be broken, potentially revolutionizing our understanding of this remarkable civilization. Until that day arrives, Meluhha remains simultaneously one of archaeology's greatest success stories and most tantalizing mysteries. A civilization we can see in remarkable detail through foreign eyes and archaeological remains, yet cannot hear in its own voice. Like viewing an epic film with the sound turned off, able to appreciate the visual grandeur while yearning to understand the dialogue that would make the story complete. In the epic tales of humanity's first civilization, sung by poets in the torchlit halls of ancient Sumer, there existed a distant realm so rich in precious metals and stones that its very name became synonymous with unattainable wealth. A mountain kingdom whose rulers matched wits with the gods themselves, yet whose location has eluded every expedition sent to find it across 5,000 years of searching. Aratta emerges from the mists of prehistory through some of the world's oldest literary compositions, preserved on clay tablets that predate the pyramids of Egypt by centuries. Unlike many lost cities that appear as mere names in commercial records or king lists, Aratta stars as a central character in multiple Sumerian epic poems. Its culture, rulers, and relationship with Mesopotamia described in narrative detail that brings this distant kingdom to vivid life. The most extensive account appears in the epic cycle of Enmerkar, legendary king of Uruk around 2800 BCE. In Enmerkar and the Lord of Aratta, we encounter not just a place, but a rival civilization of such sophistication that it could challenge Uruk, then the world's largest city, in matters of theology, craftsmanship, and political power. The poem presents Aratta as Uruk's equal and opposite, a highland kingdom whose mastery of metallurgy and access to precious materials made it essential to Mesopotamian ambitions. According to these ancient texts, Aratta lay far to the east of Sumer, beyond 7 mountain ranges that tested the endurance of even the hardiest travelers. The journey from Uruk to Aratta required crossing the fearsome Zubi Mountains, traversing highlands where no grain grew, and navigating paths known only to specialized guides. The sheer difficulty of reaching Aratta, as described in Sumerian literature, suggests both geographical reality and metaphorical significance. This was a kingdom at the very edge of the known world. The wealth of Aratta, as depicted in Sumerian sources, centered on materials that were completely absent from the alluvial plains of Mesopotamia. Gold, silver, lapis lazuli, and carnelian flowed from Aratta's mountains in quantities that seemed magical to the resource-poor Sumerians. The texts describe Arattan craftsmen as masters of metallurgy and stoneworking, capable of creating objects of such beauty that they were fit for the gods themselves. The epic narratives reveal a complex diplomatic relationship between Uruk and Aratta. Rather than simple conquest or trade, the texts describe elaborate contests of wit, skill, and divine favor. Enmerkar sought to subordinate Aratta not through military force, but through increasingly complex challenges, riddles that tested wisdom, demands for impossible tributes, and competitions of craftsmanship that pushed both civilizations to the heights of their capabilities. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Aratta cycle is its portrayal of technological and cultural exchange. The texts credit this interaction with fundamental innovations in Sumerian civilization. According to Enmerkar and the Lord of Aratta, the very invention of writing on clay tablets emerged from the need to communicate complex messages across the vast distances separating the two kingdoms. When Enmerkar's messenger could no longer remember increasingly elaborate oral messages, the king invented cuneiform writing, a mythological explanation for one of humanity's most crucial innovations. The religious dimensions of the Uruk-Aratta relationship add another layer of complexity. Both kingdoms worshipped Inanna, later known as Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, but competed for her primary favor. The text suggests that Aratta possessed the goddess's original temple and cult statue, which Enmerkar sought to transfer to Uruk. This religious competition may reflect historical memory of shifting cult centers and the political power that came with divine patronage. The specificity of Sumerian descriptions has tantalized scholars attempting to locate Aratta. The texts mention particular travel times, geographical features, and natural resources that should theoretically allow for identification. The consistent placement of Aratta to the east, in mountainous terrain rich in minerals and semi-precious stones, has focused attention on the Iranian plateau as the most likely general region. Several archaeological sites have been proposed as ancient Aratta, each with compelling evidence and significant problems. Shar-e-Sukte, the burnt city in eastern Iran, presents one intriguing possibility. This Bronze Age urban center, which flourished between 3200 and 1800 BCE, displays evidence of long-distance trade, sophisticated craftsmanship, and monumental architecture. The site's location at the crossroads of trade routes connecting Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, and Central Asia matches Aratta's described position as an intermediary between civilizations. The discovery at Shar-e-Sukte of the world's earliest known artificial eyeball, sophisticated urban planning, and evidence of industrial-scale craft production speaks to a level of civilization matching Sumerian descriptions of Aratta. Most significantly, the site shows evidence of lapis lazuli working on a massive scale, with workshops dedicated to processing this precious stone that was so closely associated with Aratta in Sumerian texts. Another compelling candidate is the Jiroft civilization in southeastern Iran, revealed through excavations beginning in 2001. The accidental discovery of ancient artifacts after flooding along the Halil River led to the excavation of a previously unknown Bronze Age culture of remarkable sophistication. The Jiroft sites have yielded thousands of carved chlorite vessels, decorated with elaborate mythological scenes, semi-precious stones, and evidence of monumental architecture. The iconography found at Jiroft shows intriguing parallels with Mesopotamian art while maintaining a distinctive local style, exactly what might be expected from Aratta as described in Sumerian sources. The presence of writing on some gyroft artifacts in a script that remains undeciphered raises the tantalizing possibility that we may have discovered Aratta's own literary tradition, still mute after millennia of silence. Tepe Yahya, also in southeastern Iran, presents another possible Aratta connection. This site shows continuous occupation from the 5th millennium BCE through the Islamic period, with particular prosperity during the 3rd millennium BCE, precisely when Sumerian texts describe active interaction with Aratta. The site's involvement in the chlorite vessel trade and evidence of lapis lazuli processing align with Arattan associations. The broader archaeological picture of the Iranian plateau during the Bronze Age reveals a network of interconnected urban centers engaged in long-distance trade and sophisticated craft production. This Greater Aratta, perhaps a confederation of related city-states rather than a single capital, would explain both the prominence of Aratta in Sumerian memory and the difficulty in identifying a single definitive site. Recent linguistic analysis has added new dimensions to the Aratta question. Some scholars have identified possible non-Sumerian loanwords in the Aratta texts that might derive from ancient Iranian languages, supporting an eastern location. The name Aratta itself has been analyzed for connections to known ancient toponyms, though no consensus has emerged on its etymology. Climate studies of the ancient Near East suggest that the Iranian plateau experienced significantly different conditions during the early Bronze Age. Higher rainfall and cooler temperatures would have made regions that are now marginal for agriculture capable of supporting large urban populations. This environmental data expands the possible locations for Aratta into areas that might seem unlikely based on modern conditions. The geopolitical implications of Aratta's location continue to influence modern archaeological research. The possibility that Iranian plateau civilizations played crucial roles in the development of writing, urban planning, and long-distance trade challenges Mesopotamia-centered narratives of early civilization. This has led to increased archaeological investment in Iran, though political tensions have often limited international collaboration. Satellite archaeology has revealed extensive Bronze Age settlement patterns across the Iranian plateau, many in regions previously thought to be archaeological blanks. These discoveries suggest that the civilization Sumerians called Aratta may have been part of a much broader cultural phenomenon, an Eastern counterpart to Mesopotamian urban civilization that has only recently begun to receive appropriate scholarly attention. The symbolic significance of Aratta in Sumerian literature extends beyond historical geography. As the distant source of precious materials and divine wisdom, Aratta represented the limits of the known world and the possibilities that lay beyond. The kingdom functioned in Sumerian imagination, much as El Dorado would for later European explorers, a real place transformed by distance and desire into something approaching myth. Modern Iran's cultural heritage organizations have embraced the possible connection between ancient Aratta and archaeological sites within their borders. Museums in Tehran, Kerman, and other cities display artifacts from Bronze Age sites with explicit reference to the Aratta tradition, creating national narratives that connect contemporary Iran to the deep past of human civilization. The search for Aratta has revealed the complexity of Bronze Age Central Asian trade networks. Whether or not any single site can be definitively identified as Aratta, the archaeological evidence demonstrates that Sumerian texts preserved accurate memories of sophisticated Eastern civilizations that traded precious materials across thousands of kilometers of difficult terrain. Perhaps the most significant discovery emerging from the search for Aratta is the realization that the Bronze Age world was far more interconnected than traditional narratives suggested. The movement of materials, ideas, and technologies between Mesopotamia and the Iranian plateau created a shared cultural sphere that influenced the development of both regions. Today, as new archaeological techniques reveal previously hidden sites and climate data reshapes our understanding of ancient landscapes, the search for Aratta continues with renewed vigor. Each excavation season in Iran, Afghanistan, and Turkmenistan brings new possibilities for identifying the kingdom that sparked Sumerian imagination and inspired some of humanity's oldest literary masterpieces. The mystery of Aratta ultimately transcends the question of its precise location. Like Troy before Heinrich Schliemann's excavations, Aratta represents the possibility that literary traditions preserve genuine historical memories across millennia. The kingdom beyond seven mountains may yet emerge from the dust of archaeological excavation, but it has already emerged from the realm of pure myth into the sphere of historical possibility. As scholars continue to decipher new texts, excavate promising sites, and analyze the complex trade networks of Bronze Age Asia, Aratta remains what it has always been: a kingdom at the edge of knowledge, beckoning from beyond the mountains with promises of gold, wisdom, and answers to questions that have echoed through 50 centuries of human wondering about what lies beyond the far horizon, where the known world ends and mystery begins. High in the world's most forbidding mountains, where the wind carries prayers across peaks that pierce the sky itself, Buddhist texts speak of a realm that exists simultaneously in our world and beyond it, a kingdom so perfectly hidden that only those of pure heart and clear vision can find the paths that lead to its jade valleys and crystal towers, where enlightened beings preserve wisdom that will one day save humanity from its darkest hour. Shambhala emerges from the sacred literature of Tibetan Buddhism, not as ancient history, but as present reality, a kingdom that exists now, in our time, concealed by more than physical barriers. The earliest references appear in texts dating to the 11th century CE, particularly in the Kalachakra Tantra, one of the most complex and profound teachings in Tibetan Buddhism. Unlike other lost cities that vanished in antiquity, Shambhala is described as a thriving kingdom that has perfected the art of remaining hidden, while continuing to influence world events from behind its veil of snow and silence. The Kalachakra texts provide remarkably detailed descriptions of Shambhala's geography and structure. The kingdom is said to be shaped like an 8-petaled lotus, surrounded by snow mountains that form an impenetrable barrier to the uninitiated. Within these natural walls lies a land of plenty, where 960 million inhabitants live in 96 principalities, all governed from the capital city of Kalapa by a line of enlightened kings known as the Kalki rulers. According to these sacred texts, Shambhala's landscape defies ordinary geography. Rivers flow with perfumed waters, wish-fulfilling trees bear fruit in all seasons, and the climate remains perpetually temperate despite the surrounding snow peaks. The buildings are constructed from precious materials: gold, silver, coral, and pearl. While the palace of the Kalki king features a 3-dimensional mandala that serves as both architectural marvel and cosmic map. The technological achievements attributed to Shambhala challenge conventional notions of pre-modern capabilities. The texts describe aerial vehicles, powerful weapons that harness natural forces, and communication devices that allow instant contact across vast distances. This blend of spiritual advancement and material sophistication creates a vision of civilization that transcends the usual dichotomy between mystical and technological progress. The historical Buddha Shakyamuni is said to have taught the Kalachakra Tantra at the request of Suchandra, the first Kalki king of Shambhala, who brought these teachings back to his kingdom where they have been preserved in perfect form. This positions Shambhala not as a purely mythical realm, but as a historical kingdom that received specific Buddhist teachings and maintained an unbroken lineage of practice. The prophecies associated with Shambhala add urgency to its mystery. According to the Kalachakra texts, the kingdom will remain hidden until a time of global crisis when materialism and spiritual ignorance threaten to overwhelm humanity. At this crucial moment, the 25th Kalki king, Rudra Chakrin, will emerge from Shambhala with a vast army to defeat the forces of darkness and usher in a new golden age of spiritual awakening. The search for physical Shambhala has drawn explorers, mystics, and scholars for centuries. Tibetan traditions speak of Baal's hidden valleys protected by spiritual forces that can serve as refuges during times of crisis. These Baals are described as transitional spaces between ordinary reality and pure lands like Shambhala, accessible only to those with proper karmic connections and spiritual preparation. The Mongol connection to Shambhala added political dimensions to the spiritual tradition. The third Panchen Lama wrote a famous guidebook to Shambhala in the 18th century, The Way to Shambhala, which provided both spiritual instructions and geographical directions. This text inspired generations of Mongolian and Tibetan pilgrims to seek the hidden kingdom, with some claiming to have found signs of its proximity in the Kunlun Mountains, the Altai Range, or the remote valleys of northern Tibet. Western fascination with Shambhala began in the 19th century as European explorers and scholars encountered Tibetan Buddhist texts. The concept resonated with Western esoteric traditions, leading to various interpretations that ranged from scholarly analysis to occult speculation. Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society incorporated Shambhala into their cosmology, though their version differed significantly from traditional Buddhist understanding. The most famous Western expedition in search of Shambhala was led by the Russian artist and mystic Nicholas Roerich in the 1920s. Roerich's Central Asian expedition, ostensibly scientific and artistic in nature, was deeply motivated by the search for Shambhala. His paintings of the Himalayas, suffused with mystical light and hidden meanings, captured his vision of a landscape where material and spiritual realities interpenetrated. Roerich's expedition journals describe encounters with mysterious lights, unexplained phenomena, and local traditions about hidden valleys where advanced beings dwelt. His team collected legends from across Central Asia that seemed to point toward a consistent tradition of a hidden kingdom possessed of advanced knowledge and spiritual power. While Roerich never claimed to have found Shambhala itself, he became convinced of its reality as a spiritual, if not purely physical place. The dark shadow of Nazi interest in Shambhala represents one of history's strangest chapters. The Ahnenerbe, the Nazi organization dedicated to proving Aryan racial theories through archaeology and mysticism, sent expeditions to Tibet partly motivated by distorted ideas about Shambhala. They sought evidence of an ancient Aryan homeland and advanced technologies that could be weaponized. This perversion of spiritual traditions for racial and military purposes demonstrates how powerfully the Shambhala concept could capture imaginations across cultures. Modern satellite technology has revealed previously unknown archaeological sites throughout Central Asia that some researchers have connected to Shambhala traditions. Ancient cities along the Silk Road, Buddhist kingdoms that flourished in what are now the most remote regions of Tibet, Xinjiang, and Central Asia provide historical contexts that may have influenced Shambhala legends. The discovery of cave complexes containing vast libraries of Buddhist texts shows that hidden repositories of knowledge, a key feature of Shambhala, did exist in historical reality. The kingdom of Zhangjung, which predated the Tibetan Empire in western Tibet, has been proposed as a historical prototype for Shambhala. This sophisticated civilization, centered around Mount Kailash, possessed its own language, script, and spiritual traditions. Archaeological investigations have revealed that Zhangjung maintained extensive trade networks and cultural exchanges that could have inspired legends of a hidden kingdom of great wealth and wisdom. Climate research on Central Asia has revealed that many now desolate regions supported significant populations during medieval warm periods. The shifting of trade routes, changes in precipitation patterns, and political upheavals led to the abandonment of once thriving cities. These environmental and historical changes may have transformed memories of real kingdoms into legends of hidden realms, accessible only through spiritual means. Contemporary Tibetan lamas maintain diverse views on Shambhala's nature. Some interpret it purely as a metaphor for the enlightened mind, with its geographical descriptions serving as meditation tools rather than literal maps. Others insist on Shambhala's physical reality while acknowledging that conventional archaeological methods cannot locate it. A third perspective suggests that Shambhala exists in a dimension that intersects with, but is not limited to ordinary physical space. The Dalai Lama has spoken extensively about Shambhala, emphasizing its role as an inspiration for creating enlightened society in our present world, rather than escapist fantasy about hidden utopias. This pragmatic approach treats Shambhala as a blueprint for civilization based on wisdom and compassion, regardless of whether a physical kingdom exists behind Asian mountains. Modern physics has introduced concepts that make traditional descriptions of Shambhala less fantastical than they once seemed. Ideas about parallel dimensions, quantum entanglement, and the observer effect in physics provide frameworks for understanding how a place might exist in ways that transcend ordinary spatial limitations. While this doesn't prove Shambhala's existence, it expands our conception of what existence might mean. The influence of Shambhala on global culture extends far beyond Buddhist communities. From James Hilton's Lost Horizon and its fictional Shangri-La to contemporary New Age movements, the concept of a hidden sanctuary of wisdom continues to resonate. Video games, novels, and films regularly feature versions of Shambhala, usually stripped of Buddhist context, but retaining the core idea of an advanced civilization hidden from ordinary humanity. Environmental movements have embraced Shambhala as a symbol of sustainable civilization living in harmony with nature. The traditional descriptions of Shambhala's technology as working with natural forces rather than against them provide models for ecological thinking. Some eco-villages and intentional communities explicitly invoke Shambhala principles in their design and governance. The search for Shambhala in the 21st century has taken new forms. Rather than physical expeditions to Central Asian mountains, researchers analyze satellite imagery for anomalies, study climate data for habitable zones in supposedly uninhabitable regions, and use ground-penetrating radar to search for underground structures. Digital humanities projects attempt to map references to Shambhala across various Asian traditions, seeking patterns that might indicate historical realities behind spiritual symbols. Neuroscience research on advanced meditation practitioners has revealed brain states and capabilities that align with some traditional claims about Shambhala's inhabitants. Studies of Tibetan monks show abilities to regulate body temperature, enter profound states of consciousness, and demonstrate compassion at levels that suggest human potential far beyond ordinary experience. These findings make the concept of an enlightened society seem less impossible, even if its physical location remains elusive. The question of Shambhala's existence ultimately transcends simple binary choices between real and mythical. Like quantum particles that exist in superposition until observed, Shambhala occupies a space between potentiality and actuality that may be essential to its nature. The kingdom functions as what Tibetans call a support for practice. Its reality lies not in GPS coordinates, but in its power to inspire spiritual development and social transformation. As climate change threatens traditional ways of life across the Himalayas and Central Asia, the Shambhala prophecies about emerging during global crisis take on new relevance. Whether understood literally or symbolically, the promise of preserved wisdom that can guide humanity through dark times resonates with contemporary anxieties about civilizational collapse and renewal. The mystery of Shambhala continues to evolve with each generation that seeks it. Medieval Tibetan pilgrims, Victorian adventurers, Nazi occultists, hippie seekers, and digital age researchers have all projected their hopes and fears onto this hidden kingdom. Yet through all these interpretations, the core vision persists. Somewhere beyond the mountains exists a realm where human beings have achieved what seems impossible. A civilization based on wisdom rather than power, compassion rather than competition, and enlightenment rather than ignorance. Perhaps the deepest teaching of Shambhala is that the greatest mysteries cannot be solved, but only lived. The kingdom beyond the snow remains hidden, not because its inhabitants lack the power to reveal themselves, but because hiddenness serves a purpose in the grand pattern of human spiritual evolution. In seeking Shambhala, we discover not just what might lie beyond distant mountains, but what lies beyond the mountains of our own limitations, a discovery that may be the true treasure that this most elusive of lost cities guards in its crystal valleys where the future waits to be born. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, according to traditions that span continents and millennia, lies a vast network of illuminated caverns where an advanced civilization has thrived since before the first pyramid rose from desert sands. A hidden world whose entrances are guarded by storms and secrecy, whose inhabitants possess knowledge that could transform human understanding, yet whose very existence challenges our most fundamental assumptions about the planet we call home. The concept of Agartha emerges from a complex tapestry of global traditions about underground realms, woven together by 19th century occultists into a unified vision that has captivated imaginations ever since. Unlike lost cities that allegedly sank beneath oceans or lie buried under sand, Agartha is said to exist now, inhabited and thriving, accessible through carefully hidden entrances at the Earth's most remote and sacred locations. In Buddhist traditions, particularly those of Tibet and Mongolia, references to underground kingdoms appear in ancient texts with striking consistency. The kingdom is sometimes called Agartha or Asgartha, described as a place where great masters withdrew to preserve sacred teachings from surface world corruption. These traditions speak of vast tunnel systems connecting sacred sites through which initiated lamas could travel distances that would take months on the surface in mere days underground. The Hindu Puranas contain extensive descriptions of underground realms, particularly Patala, divided into 7 levels of increasing splendor. Unlike Western conceptions of underground as necessarily dark or hellish, these Sanskrit texts describe subterranean paradises illuminated by jewels and artificial suns, populated by advanced beings possessing technologies that surface dwellers would consider miraculous. The Nagas, serpent beings of great wisdom, are said to guard the entrances to these realms and the treasures of knowledge they contain. Central Asian shamanic traditions preserved similar concepts long before Buddhist influence. Mongol legends speak of underground passages beneath the Altai Mountains, leading to a kingdom where the ancestors dwell in eternal light. These traditions describe specific locations where the earth breathes caves that exhale warm air in winter and inhale cool air in summer, suggesting vast underground spaces with their own atmospheric systems. The modern Western concept of Agartha crystallized through the writings of French occultist Alexandre Saint-Yves d'Alvedre in his 1886 work Mission de l'Inde. Saint-Yves claimed to have received telepathic communications from Agartha's rulers, describing a synarchic government combining spiritual and temporal authority that could serve as a model for surface civilization. His Agartha was a technological and spiritual utopia with a population of millions hidden beneath the Himalayas. According to Saint-Yves, Agartha's capital, Paradesa, contained libraries with the complete history of humanity stretching back 55,000 years, recorded on stone tablets in a universal language. The kingdom's technology included aerial vehicles, communication devices surpassing surface capabilities, and energy sources that drew power directly from the cosmic field. This blend of ancient wisdom and advanced technology became a hallmark of subsequent Agartha narratives. The Polish explorer Ferdynand Ossendowski brought Agartha to wider Western attention through his 1922 book, Beasts, Men, and Gods. Fleeing the Russian Revolution through Mongolia and Tibet, Ossendowski claimed to have encountered Buddhist lamas who spoke of Agartha as historical fact. His accounts included specific details: the kingdom's ruler, the king of the world, who governed from the city of Shambhala, which Ossendowski placed within Agartha rather than as a separate realm, possessed the power to speak with God and influence world events from his underground throne. Ossendowski's most intriguing claims involve physical evidence of Agartha's proximity. He described regions where no snow would settle, where the earth was warm to the touch in the depths of winter, and where strange lights emerged from the ground. Local guides, he claimed, would make wide detours around certain areas, explaining that these were zones where the underground world was close to the surface and interference with surface life was possible. The connection between Agartha and Hollow Earth theories added pseudo-scientific dimensions to the legend. Starting with Edmund Halley's 1692 hypothesis about concentric spheres within Earth, various theorists proposed that our planet's interior might contain vast habitable spaces. John Cleves. Sims Jr.'s early 19th century campaigns for polar expeditions to find entrances to the inner Earth influenced a generation of writers and explorers who incorporated these ideas into Agartha mythology. Admiral Richard Byrd's polar expeditions in the 1920s-1940s became entangled with Agartha lore through disputed claims about his discoveries. While Byrd's actual journals contain no references to underground civilizations, persistent legends claim he flew into polar openings and encountered representatives of an advanced inner Earth society. These stories, despite lacking credible documentation, continue to circulate in alternative history communities. The Nazi regime's interest in Agartha represents one of history's darkest chapters in occult exploration. The Thule Society, which influenced early Nazi ideology, incorporated Agartha into their mythology of Aryan origins. Some Nazi expeditions to Tibet and Antarctica included secret objectives related to finding Agartha entrances, based on the belief that the underground realm preserved pure Aryan bloodlines and advanced technologies from before a global catastrophe. Heinrich Himmler's Ahnenerbe organization took these searches seriously, combining pseudo-archaeology with intelligence gathering in Central Asia. Documents captured after World War II revealed extensive Nazi interest in underground installations, though whether this stemmed from practical military considerations or occult beliefs about Agartha remains debated by historians. Modern geology and seismology have revealed Earth's interior structure in detail that makes traditional hollow Earth theories impossible. However, discoveries of vast cave systems, underground rivers, and deep aquifers demonstrate that substantial underground spaces do exist. The discovery of extremophile organisms thriving in deep caves without sunlight has expanded scientific understanding of where life might exist. The Krubera Cave in Georgia, Earth's deepest known cave at over 2,200 meters, hints at the vast underground spaces that remain unexplored. Cave systems like Vietnam's Son Doong, large enough to contain city blocks, were unknown until recent decades. These discoveries fuel speculation about what other underground spaces might exist, even if they don't support the elaborate civilizations of Agartha mythology. Satellite technology has revealed unusual thermal signatures in various locations traditionally associated with Agartha entrances. While scientists attribute these to geological phenomena like volcanic activity or unique mineral compositions, alternative researchers interpret them as evidence of underground heat sources, possibly indicating habitation. Areas in Tibet, the Gobi Desert, and Antarctica show anomalies that continue to attract both scientific study and esoteric speculation. The cultural impact of Agartha extends throughout modern media and spirituality. Science fiction writers from Edgar Rice Burroughs to contemporary authors have created elaborate underground civilizations inspired by Agartha concepts. Video games, movies, and television series regularly feature versions of underground advanced societies, usually stripped of spiritual context but maintaining the core premise of hidden wisdom and technology. New Age movements have embraced Agartha as both literal place and metaphysical concept. Channelers claim communication with Agarthan masters who provide spiritual teachings and warnings about surface humanity's direction. These modern interpretations often blend environmental messages with traditional occult themes, presenting Agartha as an example of sustainable civilization that surface humanity should emulate. Conspiracy theories have woven Agartha into narratives about secret government programs, alien bases, and suppressed technologies. Claims about deep underground military bases, DUMBs, often reference Agartha traditions, suggesting government awareness of or contact with underground civilizations. While actual underground military installations exist, their connection to ancient underground kingdoms remains in the realm of speculation. Contemporary expeditions continue to search for Agartha entrances, now equipped with ground-penetrating radar, magnetometers, and other advanced technologies. Areas of interest include the Kunlun Mountains in China, where local traditions speak of underground passages and strange phenomena. Recent geological surveys have revealed extensive cave systems, though none matching Agartha's described scale. Mount Shasta in California, long associated with underground cities in Native American tradition and modern New Age belief. The mountain's unique geology and persistent reports of unusual phenomena maintain its status as a potential Agartha entrance. The Mammoth Cave System in Kentucky, Earth's longest known cave system with over 400 miles mapped and connections to Native American traditions about underground worlds. Ongoing exploration continues to reveal new passages, fueling speculation about deeper connections. Antarctica remains a focus of Agartha speculation, particularly areas where ice-penetrating radar has revealed massive under-ice caverns and liquid water lakes. While scientists explain these as natural geological features, alternative researchers see potential evidence of habitable underground spaces. The psychological appeal of Agartha reflects deep human archetypes about hidden wisdom and underground sanctuaries. Carl Jung's concepts of the collective unconscious find expression in these consistent cross-cultural traditions about underground advanced beings. The idea that solutions to surface problems might exist in hidden realms resonates with both ancient initiation mysteries and modern escapist fantasies. Environmental crises have given new relevance to Agartha mythology. As surface civilization faces climate change, resource depletion, and potential collapse, the concept of underground refugees takes on practical considerations beyond spiritual symbolism. Modern bunker construction and underground city planning echo ancient ideas about subterranean survival, though without the mystical elements of traditional Agartha. Scientific discoveries about Earth's deep biosphere have revealed that life extends far deeper into the planet than previously thought. Microorganisms found miles below the surface, existing in conditions of extreme pressure and temperature, suggest that Earth's interior might be more hospitable to life than once believed. While this doesn't support humanoid civilizations, it expands concepts of where life might thrive. The question of Agartha's existence operates on multiple levels of reality. As physical location, scientific evidence argues strongly against vast inhabited underground realms. As psychological symbol, Agartha clearly exists in the collective imagination as a powerful archetype. As spiritual metaphor, various traditions find meaning in the concept regardless of physical correspondence. Some researchers propose that Agartha legends preserve cultural memories of actual underground refugees used during catastrophic events. Ice ages, floods, and volcanic winters throughout human history may have driven populations into cave systems for extended periods. These experiences, transmitted through oral tradition and elaborated over millennia, could form the historical seeds of Agartha mythology. As excavation technology advances and Earth's subsurface is mapped in increasing detail, the physical space for traditional Agartha shrinks. Yet the mythological space expands, adapting to new scientific frameworks. Modern versions might place Agartha in parallel dimensions, quantum realms, or states of consciousness, rather than physical caverns. The enduring mystery of Agartha lies not in whether vast civilizations exist beneath our feet, but in why the human imagination consistently returns to this possibility. Perhaps we sense incompleteness in surface life alone, an intuition that wisdom and solutions exist in hidden dimensions of experience, if not literal underground cities. Today's search for Agartha continues through multiple disciplines. Spelunkers push deeper into Earth's cave systems. Archaeologists excavate ancient underground cities like Derinkuyu in Turkey. Consciousness researchers explore inner dimensions of mind, and mystics maintain traditional practices for accessing hidden realms. Each approach reveals its own form of underground truth, even if none lead to the illuminated caverns where the king of the world holds court. In an age where satellite imagery has mapped every square meter of Earth's surface, and deep drilling has probed miles into the crust, Agartha remains what it perhaps always was. Not a place to be found, but a direction to be explored, downward into Earth's mysteries and inward into consciousness depths, where the light that needs no sun continues to shine for those who develop eyes to see it in the profound darkness that awaits all who dare to descend.